Do you know the words memento mori?
No.
It's Latin. Ironically, it's a dead language. It means remember death. Remember, you must die.
28 years later, directed by Danny Boyle. I'm just start this off by saying I am a huge fan of this trilogy now. I loved 28 Days Later. I enjoyed 28 Weeks Later. It's got one of the best openings to any movie I've ever seen. 28 years later, it takes the franchise in a different direction, but it still also feels the same in a lot of ways, in a good way. It's got an amazing opening. They balls to the walls, definitely kill kids on screen, which everyone was shocked in the theaters about that. So awesome. I love it when movies have the balls to do things like that. Characters are also strong and likable, though one in particular is wasted, Aaron Taylor Johnson. He's not in the movie nearly enough, and when he is in the movie, he's just kind of an asshole. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth as there's no like redemption for him at all. But then again, this is going to be a trilogy, a 28 years later trilogy, so we'll see what else is going to happen. The sound design was also amazing. I enjoyed the soundtracks that were playing in the background too. Like I mentioned earlier, it's different but familiar to the rest of the trilogy. They do a lot of cool new things since, it's a huge time gap. We went from 28 weeks to 28 months, now 28 years later. This infection has had time to evolve, and there's like alphas and shit, and oh my god, the things they do, it is brutal. I love it. This movie gets an 8 out of 10. Great job, Danny Boyle. I look forward to the next movie, even if you won't be directing it. Jurassic World Rebirth, directed by Gareth Edwards. I'm going to just start this off by saying this is the most disappointing movie in the franchise, also probably the most disappointing movie of the year. It's definitely better than the last two. He's got good actors in it, but a really weak script. Probably the worst part about it is the family that's just included in the movie. It definitely seems like they were an afterthought and not really involved in the original draft, because they are introduced and saved in the first part of the movie, and then they just get split up anyways, and they don't really meet with the rest of the cast until the end of the movie. So it's like, why were they there? Totally unnecessary. Did not like them. The dinosaurs were also underwhelming. There was a lot of big talk by Gareth Edwards and also people just, trying to do marketing for the movie, saying, yeah, this is probably going to be the scariest Jurassic Park movie. We're going back to the roots of the first movie. Going to have some scary tension in there. It's going to be awesome. And also that the dinosaurs were, there's a nice sense of scale, which Gareth Edwards is really known for too. In Godzilla was fucking huge, and he definitely felt like a gigantic kaiju that was just, there to tear shit up. Make no mistake, Gareth Edwards knows how to build a sense of scale, but for him to hype this movie up and then the final product is just not that was the worst part, honestly. I was looking forward to at least some good dinosaur action, did not get that. The D-Rex, first of all, the hybrid genetic abomination, it was a whole lot of nothing. Literally, you could rip this away from the movie and not a lot would change. Also, nobody important died. There was no stakes in this movie. In shows like The Walking Dead, what made it so intense is that anyone could have died. Some people that you liked died just like out of nowhere, out of left field, and it worked. Even in Jurassic Park, a lot of people died. Samuel Jackson's character died. Robert Muldoon died. And he was probably the most qualified person to take on dinosaurs, compared to anyone there. In this movie, nobody dies. Almost everyone who's a main character gets away scot-free. And I'm sorry if that's a spoiler, but it's the truth. You were going to be disappointed either way. The only thing that I can say is that the Mosasaurus set piece was fun. It probably was, a good reflection on how Gareth Edwards knows how to build a sense of scale. That was awesome. Overall, it is a massive letdown. It's a lot better than the last two movies for sure, because those movies were so stupid. Like, I don't think you could get dumber than those two movies. So, considering that that's where the bar is, it's really still not a great movie. This movie gets a 5 out of 10. Superman, directed by James Gunn. This was the movie I was probably looking forward to the most, and I gotta say, I walked in with high expectations, and they were exceeded. That's amazing right there. It's got an incredibly colorful cast of characters. Everyone is just spot on. The actors delivered on their performances, and also everyone is very memorable. The soundtrack was also amazing. Just, the nostalgic Superman theme, but for, this modern day depiction of Superman. Awesome. It's very inspirational. Superman, the beacon of hope, but also he's human like the rest of us, even though he is technically an alien, but you get what I mean. Awesome stuff. There's a moment where Superman has to rise to the occasion, and when the music swells in, oh my god, that part is awesome. I'm just excited for the future of the DC movies now because, the DC universe has a lot to go off of. There's like I said, a huge cast of characters in here. You've got Hawkgirl, you've got Guy Gardner's Green Lantern, you've even got Mr. Terrific. That was awesome. And there's a lot of other DC characters that are, mentioned here and there, little cameos. So, yeah. The humor in this movie, I will say, is hit or miss. Some things are kind of funny, some things are kind of jarring, but overall, the humor was kind of funny. A lot of people were laughing in my theater. I was laughing along with them. The emotional beats as well landed when they needed to. This movie did actually make me shed a tear. James Gunn usually has that effect. But yeah, he's generally good at making good characters, so I had a feeling that I was going to like this movie, and yeah. My expectations were exceeded. I gave this movie an 8.5 out of 10. Dangerous Animals, directed by Sean Byrne. It's a very refreshing shark horror movie. Since Jaws came out, there have been a lot of ripoffs, a lot of homages to Jaws, but not all of them are really that good. There's a whole category on IMDb about this thing. But happy to say that this one is one of the better ones. It's got great acting. Jai Courtney, of course, is a huge standout. Ever since I saw him in Suicide Squad, I thought he was the best part of that movie, and he's a terrific actor. I'm glad that he was able to get a good part in this movie. The effects were also pretty good. There's always a worry about, crappy CGI when it comes to gore and such, but in this movie, it was honestly pretty good, so I'm glad about that too. There's a strong female lead too, a lot of girl bosses in the film industry nowadays, but this one is not so in your face about it. She's just, a genuinely strong character, and you're rooting for her the whole time. It also has a psychological aspect to it. Of course, the sharks killing people left and right, but, it's really a take on the trope of the man is the real monster. Right? Jai Courtney, of course, plays this deranged lunatic who loves watching people get mauled by sharks. And of course, if not for him, those sharks would not have been killing people. So, awesome premise, very great on the execution. It also has a lot of great suspense in it too. If you are a horror aficionado, then you definitely should check out Dangerous Animals, and especially if you like shark movies, this gets an 8 out of 10. The Fantastic Four: First Steps, directed by Matt Shakman. I heard a lot of people talking about how good this movie was when it first came out, so that gave me hope, and I'm pleased to say that my expectations were met, and it's overall a pretty good movie. Of course, it helps that it's got an amazing cast. Pedro Pascal, of course, plays Reed Richards and knocks it out of the park as usual. I understand people are kind of sick of seeing him in every other movie, but the fact is, he's a fantastic actor, and he's almost a guarantee at, pulling in audiences when it comes to movies, so you're gonna see him more often. I'm sorry if that disappoints anybody out there. But yes, Vanessa Kirby also as the Invisible Woman, Sue Storm, or Susan Richards, if you will. She was also pretty great too. She's much better than she is in any of the other movies. She actually has stuff to do. She's representative for the world pretty much, so that's pretty awesome there too. Yeah, Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch. He's also pretty good. I liked him. He's pretty funny. He's not totally Johnny Storm, like in his prime, in his essence, but he still does do a good job at delivering what he has got to the screen. We've also got Evan Moss-Backrack, I think I'm pronouncing his name right, as Ben Grimm, or The Thing. He does a pretty good job too. As much as I liked 2005's The Thing, it was very much a raw and emotional take on him. I like this guy too, although he didn't have too much to do in this movie. I still think the cast overall is pretty great. Even Julia Garner as the Silver Surfer, Shia LaBeouf, she was great. Also, you gotta mention Ralph Ineson as Galactus. Very awesome to see him as Galactus. We'll talk more about Galactus later. Anyways, the setting itself is more of a futuristic retro 60s vibe, which was pretty cool to see and very different from any other Marvel movie we've ever seen. So great, and it's incredibly awesome to see the Fantastic Four in that setting finally. The effects were pretty great overall. There's only a few things in here that I thought were kind of a little iffy on. For example, Mr. Fantastic, whenever he actually stretches out, sometimes in sequences it doesn't look great, but then again, this character has never been great to see on screen when it comes to, using his powers. It's always been a little bit gross and very jarring. Here, I would say it's the least most offending, but still, those are kind of, the weakest of the effects. Still, I will say, overall, it was great to see, especially the Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer actually looked awesome. Speaking of the Silver Surfer, she was cool, but a little underutilized. There was a lot going on with her as far as, her character towards the end, but it's never really indicative of how she's truly feeling, You just kind of understand where she's coming from, and then that's it. It doesn't really touch more onto that and how she feels about this whole situation. But still, Silver Surfer, pretty cool to see here. Maybe we'll get to see more of her in the future, or maybe we'll get the Norn Rad Silver Surfer in the future. We'll see, because, Marvel is a multiverse kind of situation. But also Galactus, oh boy. Galactus is probably one of the hardest comic book villains to do, and they managed to do him here. He's very menacing the whole time you see him, and when he actually is introduced, it's probably some of the most spine-chilling scenes in the movie, which is pretty awesome. So overall, I thought Galactus was done well. But also, it's a very family-oriented movie. If you like family-based films, you're going to like the Fantastic Four First Steps. I'll just say that. It's not a spoiler anymore to say that Franklin Richards is in the movie, so when the story starts to revolve around him, that's when it starts to get really in the feels, so that was awesome. It's also not super jokey like other Marvel movies. There's a few funny moments here and there, but it's normally just, banter played off with the main cast, which is, very nice to see. And it's not trying to make a joke out of every serious scene, which is great. Whenever the serious moments arrive, they get the time to settle in, and you really get to enjoy and feel those moments. But I will say, as far as criticisms go, for the most part, the Thing was underutilized to a great extent. I've heard other people say that Johnny Storm was also underutilized, and I mean, he's not the Johnny Storm, the total ladies man. He still has some parts of that, but I think the worst offender is the Thing, Obviously, the film, the way it sets itself up, it's 4 years in. They've had time to grow accustomed to themselves and their powers, so you don't get to see too much of the Thing in his own personal struggles. There's, slight glimpses of him, kind of maybe longing for him to be normal again, but that's like maybe one scene, it doesn't happen very often, so I wish we could have gotten more of that. I don't think they're going to have time to do that in the future again, so kind of bummed that they skipped out on that. I think those were the better parts of the 2005 movie. But this movie is very good. So glad that the Fantastic Four finally got the film that they deserved. This gets an 8 out of 10.